Hey, YouTube. So feel like talking. Um, uh, I don't know. I don't have a lot of motivation like I used to be. So super hyped and motivated, and I'm not really. Like, I don't know. If I do anything, on any day, I mean, it's just like I'm so amazed that I did something because I really have like no motivation. Somebody was talking about the whole empath, narcissist, empath thing. I don't know, saying that empaths can get to this point where they call it the Sophia stage. I know this is a totally different video, but anyway, that's why I have no motivation. But I decided to do this video anyway because I made some notes about Gen X experiences. I was watching a whole bunch of nostalgic videos about Gen X and how the mall was to us in the 80s and 90s. Some people are making some really cool nostalgic videos, and it's taking me back like a walk through time. But I mean, they're doing a good job, but I wanted to add my 2 cents, okay? Because it's like certain memories that are maybe could be a little more personal. So I think the millennials and the Gen Z's don't really understand why the boomers and the Gen Xers have this sort of love hate relationship with cell phones, why we don't like get happy joy at the cell phone store, why we don't have all the devices and the high tech stuff, and why we don't even really know the lingo. I think they don't understand us. They're just like, oh, they're too old and they're too stubborn or stupid. But they don't understand. It's not even that we're too old or stubborn and stupid. It's that we just we've always been sort of on the fence about the product. Is really, I mean, it's really the bottom line. We When I was a teenager, we there was no cell phone. We were, they keep talking about how the Gen Xers, were latchkey kids, and that's true. We were, and we had. I mean, to us, our bikes were like what Gen Z's cell phone is. I mean, if you didn't have a bike, you were just lame-o. I mean, the bike was everything, not the phone. We didn't have phone. There were pay phones everywhere, though. Pay phones. I mean, we didn't worry about a text message. We didn't worry about, uh, 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 I don't know, sending the wrong emoji. We didn't worry about a typo confusing somebody. We didn't worry about, um, you know, the battery mm, running out of juice. None of that. All those headaches. We didn't have cell phones. There was a payphone, and I think the boomers used to pay a dime, but I think by my time it was like a quarter, and I think right before they started disappearing, they were up to 50 cents. But I mean, as long as even if you didn't have the quarter on you, if you got to the payphone, you knew that you could call home, and you knew that number in your head. I still remember the phone number from the house I grew up in. That number is still in my head. And we had like probably like 5 to 10 phone numbers in our head, and you know, it's just that's how it was. Uh, you got to a payphone, and if you didn't have a quarter, you made a collect call, and that's and I mean, if you were going to a payphone, it was a serious call. That was a serious. You had a serious reason. You were stranded, or you were in trouble, or you needed serious help. If you were at a payphone, that quarter was like a life saving quarter. Um, but we just really, that's an experience that I don't think the new cell phone world really understands. They don't even miss the payphones. I mean, it wasn't just like, oh, well, what do you need that old stupid phone for? It represented mm, a situation, you know. There was a movie called Phone Booth with anyway, it was an interesting movie that came out around 2004, and but that movie wouldn't even make sense to people now. Um, I mean, I was making a lot of Superman jokes, like, oh, well, what's Superman going to do without the payphone? They all the new Superman movies just show him just running into his, Superman outfit. Clark Kent doesn't even need the payphone anymore. Okay, but I mean, I don't really like having to always carry the phone. I really don't. But now it's almost like you feel half naked if you don't have the cell phone on you. And I just feel like there's something wrong with that. All right. The other thing was record players. They had evolved, record players had evolved, and us talking about record stores and how we really were into our records, but they tried to put I saw some, I think it was a block, no, what do you call it, Barnes and Noble. I think what Taylor Swift had something on vinyl. She put out a record, and I was like, "Wow, that's cool. Records are making a comeback." Maybe they are, maybe they're not. I don't know, but a record player was something. I mean, it was like a crisis if the needle on your record broke. Um, I mean, I never learned how to fix the needle. So, like, you were very gentle with your record player because, you know, not you knew like not everybody knew how to fix the needle. And so there was a different it wasn't just like, well, let's just slap a some protective cover on my cell phone so that if I drop it, it doesn't smash. There was nothing but your own restraint to protect the needle on the broken record. You had to be gentle. If you broke the needle, it could be a long time before you got to listen to your records again. Another thing that I was thinking about is the way that we handled our books in school. I mean, like everybody, kids have always known about the backpack, but we had this thing called the Trapper Keeper, which was a really great invention. And I saw some at Walmart the other day. They're like $20 now. Whoa! I mean, back then I think they were like, I don't know, depending on where you got it. I mean, you probably could get something like Kmart for under $5, but I mean, $20 now. It's not exactly. It doesn't say Trapper Keeper, but it's the same concept. And so we had those. Those were like kind of like the thing, in your backpack. You had your Trapper Keeper, and then you had like I had. If from junior high to high school, we had like eight classes, the four regular classes, the four requirements, and then 3 to 4 electives. So you had, in your backpack going home with homework every night, you had anywhere from 3 hard textbooks, you know to with plus the Trapper Keeper in your backpack, riding the bus going home. And I mean, without that Trapper Keeper, there would have been no way to pay attention to any of the assignments. I mean, it was just I don't think that parents or teachers really understand what they've been doing to kids with that many classes. I mean, 8 classes. 8. Think about that. 8 classes. And you get this report card and you want to, yell at your kid for having a C or a D in some subject when you never really stop to think about 8 classes. Uh, I mean, imagine if you had 8 bosses. Just imagine. Just imagine if every day you had 8 bosses telling you how to do your job, and they all told you how to do the job differently. How do you think you would do? Anyway, the other thing I want to talk about is lunchtime. Most of the kids treated lunchtime in high school like it was recess. Finally we get to like talk and relax instead of just sitting in a chair, biting our tongues and looking at the clock, waiting to go to the bathroom. Um, I mean, I think lunchtime was sort of also a hassle because we only got like a half an hour and the lunch line, especially on pizza day, took about 20 minutes to get through. So you basically had like 10 minutes if you were lucky to actually eat your meal. And most of the kids didn't want to spend that 10 minutes on eating, they actually wanted to spend it on talking. So, I mean, most of the time they were gobbling up the food like before or after lunch. Um, mm, a lot of tardiness happened around lunchtime because of that. But yeah, so the lunch line took up most of the lunch time. So if you think that your kids were getting the actual half an hour to eat, they weren't. They were not only were we eating, cheap pizza or whatever they could scrounge up for the $2 that we paid for lunch, but we only had like 10 minutes to eat it. Mm. Also the Cold War paranoia and all the propaganda that, I mean, half of the kids were ready to go kill Russians and or any other commie bastards, and then the other half of the kids were, wanting to time warp back to the '60s so that they could sing "Kumbaya" with John Lennon. And if you weren't in one of those two groups, you're probably like me, listening to the Sex Pistols. And then there was boomboxes, and breakdancing. Those were like those were like a big deal in my teenage years. Boomboxes and breakdancing. Um, I mean, the boombox was so cool because we had those cassettes, and you put it in your boombox, and then you had a record button, so you could record songs off the radio. I guess now that would be considered pirating, but back then that was just no big deal. Everybody did that. You could you could make your mixtape. You could like make a whole mixtape of different songs. You were like your own DJ. Everybody was a DJ because with the boombox, everybody could be a DJ. And not just could you be a DJ, but like me and some of my friends, we actually made our own like cassettes. Like we made our own little bands, even though we weren't, like Slash on the guitar or Eddie Van Halen. We didn't really play any instruments great. I think my friend Kathy had one of those little cheap Casio keyboards, and we would just like play with the different sounds that came out of that keyboard and do our own drums or sample sounds from other songs, like strange karaoke mixes and stuff. But everybody could have a band as long as you had a boombox and a cassette. And that was really cool. I mean, we didn't have to have like high tech gear. We didn't have to sound perfect. That's why punk rock was such a thing. Punk rock was like really, kicking butt in the late '80s, and that's because if you weren't breakdancing with your boombox or DJing with your boombox, you were recording, and it didn't have to be perfect. It just had to be, you know, real and fun. Uh, yeah, I was going to also talk about, the books. When you're in school, I mean, going back beyond before high school, we had these teachers that would say, "Okay, class, uh, this is your book, your textbook, and I would like you to take it home and put a cover on it." I don't think they do that anymore, but, so a lot of us would go and you'd see, you'd see, it was sort of like an artistic thing. A lot of us would just use, the paper bags from the grocery store, and then we would decorate them with whatever, our artwork or stickers or whatever, and then you see some of the, like, the real frou-frou types who would use, like, a really fancy paper or actually buy book covers from the store, specific fancy book covers. And, it was interesting. We had to make our own or make or some people bought book covers to put on our books. It was really interesting. And, I haven't seen that in a long time. Um, I think one thing that happened was when McDonald's would start changing their playgrounds, and when they went more indoors with the playgrounds for the kids, they had those ball crawls. They had it at Chuck E. Cheese. They had it at McDonald's. A lot of the restaurants that had moved the playground to the indoor section had the ball crawl. And I remember feeling like I was too old at that point. I was like already graduated high school. So I'd sit there with my cheeseburger watching somebody else's kids in the ball crawl. And I was just kind of like ticked off. I felt ticked off about it. And it was like, not that I was mad that the kids were having fun, but like, my park was gone, like, the little crazy spinning wheel was gone, like, the seesaw was gone, like, the old-fashioned monkey bars, gone, the crickety swings, gone. Everything that was from my old park, they took away because it was unsafe, and then I see these kids in the ball crawl, and we're too old to go in the ball crawl because we would be making it unsafe if because we're too big. So we don't get to experience the new and improved funness, but they took away all of the old and unsafe funness that we grew up with. So that was lame-o. Oh, you're 21 now. Just go get drunk. You don't need to have fun anymore. Oh, okay. Thank you. Uh, mm, well, I mean, those are just some memories I wanted to share as a Gen Xer. I just listened to a video about the traumatizing movies, and he said, why don't you share? I didn't get to share it on his video, but he said, why don't you share one of the movies that traumatized you? And he mentioned a few and showed a few clips of different movies. I thought it was kind of funny and also significant in some kind of way. But it was Atreyu and the horse, Artex. Artex, yeah, that scene with Artex, that was the one. I mean, Bambi was pretty bad, but I don't know. I guess I was even more resilient when I was like little, and I saw Bambi. I guess I just associated it as sort of not real. But by the time I saw Neverending Story, and when Artex went into the quicksand mud thing, yeah, I was bawling. I was traumatized. So to answer that guy's question, it was definitely Artex was my big trauma moment. All right, well, that's my Gen X memories of the day.